Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show.
Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show with Lou Holtz and Mark May. I'm Kevin Trimble, your moderator, and welcome to Week 11 of college football. I'm going to tell you, Week 10 was pretty exciting. We have two huge games, one down in Baton Rouge and one in Lexington, but there's a lot of other games that had implications, and we're going to talk about those. But also going to hear some new exciting things this week because we've got Dr. Lou is here with us, and he's going to write a prescription for those teams that maybe feel a little sorry for themselves. In addition, we're going to have a May Day moment, and as we look forward to this coming weekend, we're going to reach out to our veterans because Sunday is the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day, and Saturday is the 243rd birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So with that said, let's get right into last week's action. Game one in our college football show contest. Number one, Alabama went to Baton Rouge in Death Valley, 29-0. Coach, talk to us about this. Lead us on, Coach.
Well, first of all, Alabama dominated the game. They had 576 yards. LSU only had 197. In addition to that, LSU only averaged 0.5 yards per rush. And when you rely your offense on running the ball and you can't run it, it's very, very disappointing. Tua had another great game, threw for 296 yards, ran three times, averaged 16.3 yards, one touchdown. It was complete domination. And if you look at that game, you wonder how in the world is LSU going to win another game.
When you look at this game, guys, I don't know about LSU. This was supposed to be the biggest test of the year for Alabama. Everyone said that they didn't play anybody. Now they finally played a ranked football team on the road down in Baton Rouge. And what does Alabama do? They come with their B game, Coach. Their B game, and they still stomp LSU in their own backyard. Tua was spectacular, but he threw an interception in the game, the first one he threw the entire season. But what really impressed me, how do you stop Alabama? If you look at the Harris boys running the football, 190 yards combined between those two running backs. Not only that, with Tua throwing the ball, now there's a threat of Tua running the ball. Coach, you mentioned it. He had a 40-yard plus rush for a touchdown in this game, and that opened everybody's eyes. Now you've got to defend his running ability, his passing ability, the running game for Alabama, and you're right about their defense. They held LSU to 12 yards rushing. It was a dominant performance, and Alabama didn't even have to play with their A game, and they got it done on the road.
Gentlemen, guess what? You both picked Alabama. You both picked Alabama by 24. So guess what? That's a push, and we're going to move on that to the second hole. So see you at the tee box. Our next game, Georgia went to Kroger Field, Lexington, Kentucky to play the number 9 Kentucky Wildcats. SEC East Championship is what it was, but it turned out to be 34-17. Kentucky's offense couldn't produce much. Penny Stell couldn't produce much. Defense, you know what? You got to stop the run. So Georgia is on their way, but talk to us about this game. Mark May, what do you think about what happened down in Lexington?
Very impressed by Georgia and their offensive line. They rushed for more yards than they had the entire season, 331 yards. Elijah Holyfield did a terrific job. DeAndre Smith did a terrific job running the football. But if you look at Kentucky, there's a team that can throw the football, and they haven't thrown it all year. But the last two games with their quarterback, Terry Wilson, did a terrific job, 200 yards plus 2 consecutive games. Now that opens up their offense. The offense wasn't the problem for Kentucky in this game. It was their defense, Coach. And going into this game, their defense have led them the entire season. They just couldn't pick it up and stop the run. And you look at Fromm, the quarterback from Georgia, he didn't even have to throw the ball. He threw for just barely over 100 yards in this game, and they still got the job done.
Well, it seems to me Georgia approached the game and said, we're going to go into the battleground in Lexington. We're going to be physical. We'll run the football. And they had 2 running backs, both over 100 yards rushing. That doesn't happen against great defensive football teams. But we said last week that I wasn't sure how well Kentucky would react because they'd never been in this situation before, a big game, and they did not react particularly well. When you have Snell, their great running back, not be able to get much yardage, they're going to be a long day for them. I think there's no doubt about it. Georgia's the best football team in the East, and we'll see how well they fare up against Alabama in the championship game because that game's already been decided.
There's no doubt about it. It's exciting in Lexington because we were there together at Davos in the Bluegrass to enjoy a bunch of investors from the Crowds Line and met some new friends. And you know what? Kentucky's still 7-2. We're going to talk about them later today. But everybody talks about, oh, it's back to basketball season. No, it's not, because they can't play defense either. Saw that last night. But Kentucky's football team is 7-2, and they keep winning out. They might be on that New Year's Day 6 bowl game. So we'll see. But the Mountaineers of West Virginia, Coach's home state, went to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns. And it came down to the very end. And you know what? Dana Holgorsen showed some moxie with his quarterback who's got some moxie, and they pulled it out 42-41. Mark, talk about the Mountaineers.
I'll tell you what, if you want an exciting football game, you look at this team. They were up and down the field. There are 9 lead changes in this football game, over 1,100 yards total offense combined, over 700 yards passing in this game, Coach, and 0 interceptions. If you want an exciting football game that goes back and forth and back, this was a game for you. But at the end of the game, Will Grier pulls it out with a terrific job leading his team down the field to play, throwing a touchdown pass at the end of the game, and not going for the tie to go into overtime. But guess what? They decided to go for the win with a 2-point conversion, Coach, and they didn't even throw it. Will Grier ran the ball in for the 2-point conversion, and West Virginia wins. What a terrific game. I thought this was the best game to watch on Saturday, one of the most exciting games to watch the entire season.
It was an exciting game if you're a West Virginia fan. Not so much if you picked Texas like I did. Texas has a game won. You're talking about how great Greer did, and it was a great throw. But how in the world, there was 16 seconds to go, you're up by 7, you let him throw a 33-yard touchdown pass because the receiver gets behind him? I just know that Texas is absolutely devastated. I know I've talked to some of their fans. They had the victory in their hand. And, you know, when you get in that defense, Mark, sometimes people call it prevent, sometimes they call it victory. I call it prevent victory. On the 2-point conversion, he ran in. I'm not sure he should not have been called for taunting before he got into the end zone.
Well, taunting is illegal, Coach, because it's not nice. And we know that's rule number 1. But here's the thing. You've got our 4th game, and I don't know if it was taunting, but it was, hey, we're going to win because we're on a mission. The number 4 Notre Dame Fighting Irish went to Evanston, Illinois, Northwestern, and it was pretty close. But you know what? They had this game. They ran the ball. They threw the ball 31-21. Notre Dame beats Northwestern. Mark, talk to us.
I'll tell you what, ever since Brian Kelly inserted Ian Book as the starting quarterback, he has carried this football team from the first snap, Coach, and you know it. He threw for over 340 yards again, 2 touchdowns in this game, protected the ball, guided their offense, did what he had to do. This was still a pretty close game. They had to go down deep to win this game. Northwestern didn't give up. They fought back late in the football game, but Notre Dame put it back in the end of the football game and beat Northwestern. I thought it was a good, convincing win for Notre Dame to go on the road and beat a team that still leads the Big Ten West and is at the top of the pile there that could probably get to the Big Ten championship game.
That would be a shame because it'd be 5-5, I think. But I've been on Notre Dame since the first week of this show. Welcome to the
You've been on Notre Dame forever.
Welcome. I picked them as one of the top 4 before the season began. The thing about Notre Dame, they do what they have to do in order to win. The one thing that concerns me, they played down to their competition a little bit. But they had the game underway. It's going to be a complete victory. Then here comes Northwestern. They make it 24-21. What happens? Notre Dame controls the football. And just a great run there on a deceptive play by Ian Book. I think Notre Dame's outstanding. And they aren't going to play anybody in the remaining game that doesn't have at least 4 losses, with the exception of Syracuse. And they play Syracuse in New York, outside, on grass, and Syracuse a different football team. So I think Notre Dame has a good run into the championship and truly deserve it. Now, can they play with Clemson and Alabama? What concerns you? Whoever's 3-4, you got to beat Clemson one week, Alabama the next week. That's very difficult to do.
Well, 3 of the 4 losing teams in our college football show contest, namely LSU, Kentucky, and Texas, you know what? They had some big dreams that might have been dashed. And I think when you have those big dreams get dashed, you got to go see a doctor. And, you know, what doctor I want to see? I'm going to go see Dr. Lou Holtz. That's who I'm going to call. Let's hear what the doctor has to say.
Dr. Lou's back. I wish to talk to the various people about the disappointing performance of your football team this year. It behooves you to know that I've been your age, you've never been mine, but I've also been in that same situation. I can't give you a cure for it, but I can tell you what will not work. That is drugs and alcohol. I've never had an individual say to me, the reason I'm successful is drugs and alcohol. But I've had many people tell me I ruined my life with drugs and alcohol. I used to have a sign on my desk that said, may God give me the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. You can't change the performance of your football team, but you can change your attitude. Whenever I have a disappointment, I give myself 3 to 5 hours to wallow in self-pity and to feel sorry about what happened. But after that, when those time's up, I get a smile on my face, a song in my heart, and I move on and remember, the good Lord put eyes in front of our head rather than back, so we can see where we're going rather than where we've been. When things aren't going well, I would tell our football team this: we aren't where we want to be. We aren't where we ought to be. We aren't where we're going to be. We aren't where we should be. But thank God we aren't where we used to be. I hate to tell you this, but 50% of the teams are going to lose this week. I hope your team isn't one of them. But I have very good news for you. There's no charge for this visit, provided that you keep your appointment next week at the same time. Now, don't you feel better?
Now that we've gone and filled our prescription to think about going forward, let's talk about our Week 10 Rapid 5 contest. In our first game, you know what? We all thought it was going to be closer. Penn State goes into the Big House in Michigan and 42-7. Wasn't even close. Mark, talk to us about this one.
This game was over at the start. If you look at the first drive for Michigan in this game, they go 75 yards all the way down the field. Not one pass was thrown. They're all runs. They just stuffed it down Penn State's throat, 75 yards for a touchdown drive. And guess what? It was over from there. Don Brown's defense held Penn State's offense in check, 150 total yards, forced 3 turnovers in this game. It was 42-0 until the last couple minutes of the game. Well, Jim Harbaugh said, oh, by the way, we'll let you get a score at the end of the game. This was a complete beatdown and domination by Michigan on both sides of the ball. And in special teams, it wasn't even close, Coach.
Oh, Michigan is a very, very different football team than the one that opened up against Notre Dame in the opening game of the season. I have to congratulate Coach Harbaugh and his staff, particularly with the offensive line, Mark. They are able to run the football. And that's the way Jim Harbaugh likes to coach. You go back to their Stanford football team. They were physical, they played good defense, and that's what Michigan's doing now. Consider this, Mark. They held Michigan State under 100 yards total offense, and then they turn around and hold a very good offensive football team at Penn State to under 150 yards. Michigan as a team is definitely to be looked at. I didn't think at the beginning of the year, and I'd say this, Michigan's going to be an overwhelming favorite against Ohio State. I didn't think I'd ever say that this year.
Well, that's a couple days after Thanksgiving. That one's going to be exciting. But Oklahoma, number 7 Oklahoma, played at Texas Tech. And I'm going to tell you, it was 51-46 Oklahoma. Alan Bowman, the freshman from Texas Tech, gunslinger, I think he collapsed his other lung like he did the first one in West Virginia. He had to leave the game, but it was only a 5-point game. So is Ruffin McNeil, doing some defensive magic? I don't know. Or is Texas Tech just that good and can score points but can't play defense? But Oklahoma still has high hopes to keep winning out. Mark, talk to us about this one.
We mentioned it. Ruffin McNeil's defense, this is the first time he gave over 300 yards in a game in 3 games, but they are getting better defensively and getting stops. The key to this game was early. Kyler Murray turned the ball over a few times early, but he picked it up the rest of the game, had a terrific game, throwing the football over 300 yards again. This was a game that was high productive, high scoring, over 1,100 yards in this game also. If you look at the offense for Oklahoma with Kyler Murray, they still had 687 yards total offense. They ran the ball extremely well between the tackles. This is a football team that I looked at, and I keep saying every week, you don't want to get in a shootout with Oklahoma because now they've got a defense that can get a couple of stops and they can put points on the board with anybody. Their last 3 games, they went 51, 51, and 52 points. They can put points on the board against any defense. Coach, I don't care who they play. They got to scare every defensive coordinator in the land.
Oh, the offense is not the problem for Oklahoma, and it hadn't been. In the 4 losses that they've had, the minimum amount of points that their offense scored was 42 points in losses. They lost to Georgia in the playoff last year. I think it was 52-45, something like that. I'm still not convinced this is a real good Oklahoma football team on defense. I know offense, there's no question about it. I think they're a playoff team. Is it going to be Michigan? Is it going to be Oklahoma? Michigan has great defense. Oklahoma has great offense. Who's it going to be? I don't know, but it depends upon how good Oklahoma's defense improves under Ruffin McNeil, because I'm not completely sold on him at this stage.
Well, we do know who has some offense, and that's number 12, UCF, because they hosted the Temple Owls in Orlando, and it was 52-40. And, Temple kept it close with that Jeff Collins Philly tough, defense, but Mackenzie Melton and his team ran away with it. That's a lot of athletes on one team. Mark, talk about Temple UCF.
UCF was very balanced in this game. They rushed for over 300 yards. They threw for over 300 yards. Mackenzie Milton got it done again. He does it every week. But my concern is the defense, giving up a ton of passing yards to this Temple offense. That was the key to this game that stuck out to me. Even though UCF won the game, I'm worried about their defense, particularly their pass defense, because Temple is not a prolific offense, but they threw the ball early and often in this football game and tore up the UCF's defense. But still, UCF got it done in the end.
But I tell you, I was really impressed with Russo, the quarterback at Temple. I had no idea he was that talented. He's big, he's strong, he is extremely accurate, very, very competitive, ran the ball when he absolutely had to. The thing that people don't understand about UCF, and I've been on their bandwagon all year also, Mark, is the fact they have a very, very good offensive line. They have an outstanding running back in McRae. He's not very big, but boy, he's so fast and so quick. They have great talent at wide receiver, and then, of course, Mackenzie Milton at quarterback. I thought defensively they would be better. They showed great improvement earlier in the year. I thought that was a big difference. Unless they can shore that up, I don't believe they deserve to be considered as a playoff team.
I know another playoff team who had aspirations of being a playoff team with the Washington Huskies, and they hosted Stanford, took care of business 27-23. And what they've led to is, you know what? They keep winning. They're going to play Washington State for the Pac-12 title game, or the Pac-12 North. Stanford, on the other hand, you know what? Tough year. Bryce Love getting hurt, just disappointing. 27-23, Mark. Talk to us about this Pac-12 matchup.
Well, Jay Costello has been hot the entire season, particularly the last month. But in this game, the 3 interceptions really hurt Stanford, put them in a hole. Washington took a big lead in this game, 24-0. That should have been over. But, Stanford battled back as they always do. They made it a close game. It was a 3-point game at the end. Washington got it done. If you look at their offense, not prolific. Their defense is still playing extremely well. But in this game, it was right down to the wire. Washington got it done. These two teams have always played close games. There's never been a blowout between these teams in the last few years. It's always been a 3-point game, 7-point game, 10 points at the most. But the thing about it is, they got it done, and they had to get it done. Washington is still a solid football team, but I still question their offense for 4 quarters, Coach. This is a team that I don't know if they can keep up with Washington State when it counts in the Apple Cup.
Well, particularly when I think the game is at Washington State, but that's why this game was so important to Washington. By beating Stanford, that means that they have a chance to still win the division by beating Washington State in the last football game of the year. I am not really sold on their offense either, Mark. Browning is a 4-year starting quarterback, but he doesn't have the receivers. It's not a Coach Peterson team. I look back when he was at Boise State. They did all kind of fancy things. They had fun. Now Washington looks like they're playing not to lose, and they're relying too much on their defense. They have a very, very good defense. I think Costello is having a tremendous year as a sophomore, but it just wasn't enough to carry him forward. So it looks like it's going to be Washington versus Washington State, and that is going to be fun to watch.
Coach, you're right. You hit the nail on the hammer with that about their offense, because remember at Boise State they had the Statue of Liberty play. They ran reverses, reverse passes. Now it seems like they're just lining up and just like cramming it down, first down run, second down run, third down pass it with Browning, and that's it.
That's what I've said most of the year, Mark. It's just not the same team. They had fun. They did different things. I remember when they played Oklahoma, but whoever they played at home, they were absolutely unbeatable, but they played with an air of confidence, not playing not to lose. There's a big difference, and I can sense that on the team. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm only giving you my opinion, which is worth nothing.
The winner of the Apple Cup between Washington State will play the winner of the Pac-12 South. And if that game were played today, it'd be Arizona. Who'd have thought that? Pac-12 South, see where that's going to go. Maybe Herm has an outside chance. But I'll tell you who did win a trophy, the United States Military Academy at West Point. They hosted Air Force, and they won the Commanders-in-Chief trophy. It's staying in West Point, and 17-14, though. You know what? Got to do what you got to do to win. But the Army took care of business. The trophy stays at home. Mark, talk to us.
This game went exactly how I thought it would. When the academies get together, throw the records out the window, it's going to go down the wire. It's going to be a fight. They're not going to give up. They're going to keep trying. That's what you expect out of these two football teams. Army took an early lead at 14-0 this league. Air Force battled back in the fourth quarter and made it a close game. Army kicks a field goal and puts this game away. This is what I wanted to see out of these two teams. You get the best of the best. They left it out on the field. What a great game between these two academies, and Army pulled it out at the end.
It was a great game. But Air Force is a lot better than I give them credit for. I mean, they played Boise State very, very close. They played San Diego State very close, and they had a chance to beat Army. The one thing about Army, you talk about Army, you think about, the wishbone and running the ball and controlling it. But this Army defense is outstanding. It's one of the better defense in the country. You wonder how can that be? Because they don't have the great athlete to recruit it and the great pass rusher. But remember this, they lost Oklahoma, I think, 24-21 in overtime. When you go to Norman, Oklahoma, and hold that offense to 3 touchdowns during the course of a game, that tells me you have a very, very good defense. And the way it looks now, there's going to be a great deal of interest in Army-Navy because Navy's really struggling right now. Army is riding it. Army will probably end up 10-2, which is a great tribute to Coach Monk and his staff and the cadets at West Point. And being a former military officer, not a Marine or Naval, congratulations to Army.
Coach Monken is turning it around, and he's making, as in pure military style, he's maximizing the resources that he has available. But, Coach, don't give up on Navy. We're going to talk about them later today. So, talk about these teams that are winning, talk about that are losing, talk about Washington. You know what? They still got a chance to play for that cup, and UCF to keep winning out, keep winning out. When it comes to winning, I think they need a little bit more motivation, and that motivation needs to come in the form of a Mayday moment.
This is my Mayday moment. The Power 5 surprise. In the Pac-12 South, any of these teams could win. They're 4-3 in the conference. USC, Arizona, and Colorado. 3-3 Arizona State. Any one of those teams can win the Pac-12 South and end up with 8-4 record overall. How about the Big Ten West? Northwestern is 5-4 overall, but 4-1 in the conference. They could win it and still have 4 losses and win the conference. How about this for the ACC Coastal? My beloved Pittsburgh Panthers, 5-4, but 4-1 in the conference. At the end of the season, they could be playing in the championship game at 8-4 or even 7-5. But here is my Mayday payday of the week. Keep an eye on these two teams. After Alabama's emotional victory at LSU last week, this week against Mississippi State, it's going to be a lot closer than the experts think. And Georgia, after 2 consecutive weeks of going on the road, playing tough teams in their conference and their division, at Florida, on the road, at the cocktail party, and at Kentucky. And they won both of those games. Look for them to regress a little bit against Auburn. That game will be most closer than the experts think.
With Week 10 behind us, we're going to look to Week 11 in our college football show contest. Our college football show contest is going to have 4 games, but our first game is number 2 Clemson is going up to Chestnut Hill to play number 17 Boston College. Clemson 9-0, 6-0 in the ACC, as we know, and Boston College 7-2 and 4-1. 2 different teams, but 28th meeting between these two goes back to the 1940 Cotton Bowl. Clemson leads 16-9-2. Here's what you got to know about Boston College, though. Boston College is 0-12 when they are playing a top 5 team at home. Trevor Lawrence is slinging the ball, and oh, by the way, he doesn't have to sling it many times because then he'll hand it off, as we saw against Louisville, 77-0. But Steve Adazio has brought a toughness to Chestnut Hill and Boston College. They run the ball. A.J. Dillon is now healthy. We'll see how this is going to go. Mark.
Hey, don't discount Louisville. They scored 16 points in that game. They put some points on the board. Come on,
That's
Kevin, give them a little love.
I'm sorry.
Give
I
them a little
know.
love.
I'm a Card fan.
Give them a little love.
What's up?
But if you look at this offense for Clemson, they are unstoppable. They can throw it. They can run it. Doesn't matter. They had 3 running backs over 100 yards in this game. If you look at Clemson in their last 4 games, they outscored their opponents 240-36. Think about that. That's just dominating the opposition, whether it be by the run, by the pass. And if you look at their defense, they've been outstanding on their defense. They've only given up an average of 9 points a game their last 4 games. You look at their defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, has done a terrific job. But playing at Boston College is tough, Coach. Steve Adazio always has a physical football team with A.J. Dillon. They're going to run the ball and pound the rock and try to keep it away from Clemson. It's going to be closer than most people think, but Clemson still runs away with this by 3 touchdowns, 41-21.
Well, I think that Boston College is a very, very difficult place to play. I'm taking the team up there. There's only about 30-some thousand fans, but they're right on top of you, and the students are very, very enthusiastic. But I agree with you about Clemson, Mark. You know, they remind me so much of Alabama. They have outstanding quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. They can run the football. They have a good offensive line, but their defense is absolutely outstanding, much like Alabama. So you look at Clemson, but you look at Boston College, the fact that Is Dillon going to be able to run the football, and how effective is Brown, their quarterback, going to be? I look for Clemson to win this football game 31-21. I will not be surprised, though, if it isn't much closer, because that is a very hard place to play.
Well, you gentlemen have both been up there, some to watch, some to coach, some to play. But I'll tell you what's going to be tough to play. It's called Bedlam. And you kind of say records are out the window, but Oklahoma State is going to play number 6 Oklahoma in Norman. You got the Boomer Sooner thing going out there, and then you've got the Oklahoma State mascot, which gives a lot of kids nightmares. But Oklahoma, we just said, Kyler Murray, 31 touchdowns on the year, but this new and improved Ruffin McNeil defense, we'll see how that's going to go. Because Taylor Cornelius, as we saw from Oklahoma State, hey, they beat Texas, and Oklahoma State can also run the ball, play a little bit of defense, and their coach has a good-looking mullet. So you never know what's going to happen in Bedlam down there in Norman. Mark, talk to us.
I don't know if I've ever seen a good-looking mullet, Kevin, but he does have a head of hair there.
I had one in the 80s, Mark. It was awesome.
I got to see that picture. But Bedlam, anything can happen with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. The number 2 total offense and number 3 scoring offense for Oklahoma. And you're right, Kyler Murray's been getting it done the entire season long running the ball. Trey Sermon was huge last week in their game, over 200 yards rushing in their game. I thought that was big for Oklahoma in their offense. But if you look at this offense at home, they're particularly good at home, and their defense plays much better at home under Ruffin McNeil, even though he's only had 3 shots at it as defensive coordinator, but he's done a decent job. I think that they're going to win this game. They're going to put a lot of points on the board. It's going to be Bedlam. They're going to be under 50. It's going to be 48-28, but Oklahoma still wins.
I think Oklahoma is a very, very solid football team, but I'm concerned about Oklahoma State. You know, they put 31 points on the board in a half against Texas. You go, wow. Then they didn't do anything in the second half. They've lost 3 of their last 4 football games. They have lost to Iowa State, they lost to Baylor, and they've lost to Kansas State. Those are not 3 national powers. So I know they're going to be fired up. They're going to be all excited, but I do not believe that they have a chance against Oklahoma. I look for the Sooners to win this football game 41-24. It might not be that close.
Well, 41-24, and we're going to see who's going to get right on our contest, thecrowdsline.com, or on our app, and see what they're going to pick. But I know who I'm going to pick. When you've got number 10 Ohio State is going to East Lansing to play number 18 Michigan State in this 47th meeting, which goes back to 1912. Ohio State leads 31-15. They've won 2 straight. But right now, Ohio State's looking a little wounded. Their defense gave up 450 yards to Scott Frost, Nebraska. And if it weren't for that fancy onside kick attempt, you all saw that one on TV, you never know how that one would have gone. Dwayne Haskins has thrown 32 touchdowns this year. That has something to say. But you take Michigan State, and as Mark D'Antonio said, we're going Lewerke, and Lombardi is out for now. So we'll see how that's going to go. Good defense, good offense. We're going to see how it's go. Mark, talk to us.
Connor Haywood, the running back for Michigan State, is going to be the key in this game. Last week in the game, he rushed for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was dominant in the game. The Michigan State defense is the number 1 rushing defense in the nation. And there's a reason why, because they fly around on the football defensively. Last week against Maryland, 29 rushing attempts, 26 yards. Just stuffed them, held them to 100 yards total. And if you look at Ohio State's offense, when they struggle, it's when they can't run the football. Well, now they're going to have a test against Michigan State. Old Sparty's just lying in the weeds, waiting for him at home. They're going to stuff the run. They're going to make Ohio State throw the football, and on the road, Ohio State struggles throwing the football. This Ohio State defense has been suspect to the run. Michigan State will run the ball, stop the run, win the game late. Mark D'Antonio will have a special play in this game, whether it be a reverse, a double reverse, a reverse pass. He always has something up his sleeve, an onside kick. That will win the game for Sparty, and they're going to win this game 27-24.
Stop the presses. I got a scoop for you, Mark. Every coach has a reverse and a trick play. They don't always use it, but you always
That's
go
right.
into
They
a
don't
game.
always use it, but he does.
Go into the game with one. Now, I think Michigan State is going to play an outstanding football game. You know, they have something like 19 starters back, Mark. They went 10-2 last year. They were going to be outstanding this year. It's been disappointing when you look at it. I think that they're going to play an outstanding football game against Ohio State. They're at home. I agree with you. Their defense, number 1 in the country against the rush. The thing that bothers me Ohio State is not a complete team right now, Mark. You look at Ohio State, and there's something missing. The chemistry, the spark, whatever. Maybe it goes back to the fact that Urban Meyer missed the first couple games, could not be there during 2-8. I don't know what it is, but this football team is very, very talented. I know Urban Meyer's a great football coach, a great leader, but something's missing. Despite that, I look for the Buckeyes to prevail 31-27, a very close game. And other than Clemson and Southern Cal's locker room, I hate Michigan State's locker room more than any other one. They finished third on bad locker rooms.
Could be pink, but we're going to see because Ohio State is, you know what, they're looking a little bit stiff right now. Maybe they'll lighten up in East Lansing and take care of business. But I'll tell you who else is looking a little bit stiff right now is pretty much the most penalized team in America. Florida State Seminoles are going to Notre Dame. So they're averaging almost 100 yards in penalties a game. So right there, here you go, 100-yard rusher, pretty much the same thing. Who's going to start at quarterback? James Blackman, DeAndre Francois, Willie Taggart, is trying to handed play calling over to his assistant. So we're going to see where this is going to go. But this is a team that I think is, you know what, they can win 3 games and maybe get in a bowl game. Who knows? Or 2 games and they can get in a bowl game. But they are going to South Bend, and Notre Dame is on fire, as we said. Mark, your thoughts?
This should be one of those games where the Fighting Irish coach, just roll the helmets out on the field, the Golden Domers. It's going to be easy for them. They're going to be about a 30-point favorite in this game. They should roll over old lowly Florida State because Florida State, they've lost the team. Players have quit on Willie Taggart. He's substituting players in the game. There's no chance for Florida State in this game because they're traveling. They're playing at Notre Dame. But watch out. These players have a lot of pride. This is a chance for Willie Taggart to tell his team to rise up and play. We want to see what you got, guys, because guess what? I'm going to be here next year regardless of what happens this year, and if you don't start playing Florida State football, you're going to be on the bench. That's the one thing coaches have. They've got the power to take away your playing ability and your playing time. Florida State will play hard in this game, but they won't beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame will still win this game 33-27, Coach, but it'll be closer than most people think.
Oh, it will be very, very close, Mark. I worry about one thing about Notre Dame. This is their last home football game. In my experience, when you're playing the last home football game, the seniors get so sentimental. They get tears in their eyes. They can't see who to block and tackle. I never had a team play real good in the last home football game, and that's what concerns me. Florida State does not concern me. Maybe the most disappointing team in the country this year. For 5 years, Mark, they had one of the top recruiting class in the country. Now, either the experts evaluate the recruiting was wrong or the athletes aren't playing as well. I have never seen an offensive line perform as poorly on a consistent basis as what Florida State does. Last year, they gave up all kinds of sacks. This year, I think they've given up 27 sacks. They have one of the best running backs in the country, sophomore Cam Akers. Last year, in about 8 games, he rushed for over 1,000 yards. He can't even average 2 yards a carry. So I think that until they get their offensive line straightened away, they have absolutely no chance. Notre Dame wins this 45-14.
This is Mark May. Even with Ian Book out with the injury, Brandon Wimbush should be able to direct the Irish offense to a victory over Florida State. They're not going to be as prolific passing the football, but they'll be a better running football team. And plus, the Irish defense is a top-notch defense, and they should continue their undefeated streak throughout the season.
You're at 45-14. So go to the app and see if you can just match Coach's prediction. But I'm telling you right now, they're 17th in rushing defense, Florida State is. We're going to see. And I think for Notre Dame, one thing not to overlook, Notre Dame is one of the few teams in the country that has 3 games remaining, all of them against teams with 85 scholarship players. They got Florida State, then they got Syracuse in Yankee Stadium, and then they got USC. So this is going to be might be a tough test, and there's 2 ones after that. So that wraps up our Week 11 college football show contest. So go to the app, go to thecrowdsign.com, log in, pick your team, and pick match Coach. But more importantly, let us know. Comment. Say, you know what? I beat Coach. I beat Mark, and we're going to shout your name out.
I won 8-1 last week. I only lost because of a 33-yard pass with 16 seconds to go, or I'd been 9-0.
Well, Coach, what do they say? Play till the whistle ends. They didn't listen. So that's how it goes. Now for a Week 11 Rapid 5. We've got 5 games, and you can kind of call these the hangover games. Some of the teams had big wins this past weekend. Some of the teams had big losses this past weekend. How will they react? How will they overcome? As well as who's on the other side of that mountain that they got to play the following week. So let's start off. Mississippi State, number 16, is going to Tuscaloosa to play number 1 Alabama. Mark, talk to me about this game.
Well, if you're Nick Saban and you've got Tua Tagovailoa as the quarterback and Jalen Hurts as quarterback, they're both nicked up in this game. You want to keep them healthy. You're probably going to go with your running game. It's going to be a lower scoring game early in this football game because you want to keep your players healthy. Mississippi State's one-dimensional. If you stop Nick Fitzgerald, you stop this Mississippi State team. Alabama will put points on the board defensively and special teams-wise. They'll score on each of those in this game. They'll still win it comfortably, but not by as much as people think. It'll be 44-26. Mississippi State will put some points on the board.
This is going to be the most difficult challenge that Alabama's had the entire year. And if the game was down in Starkville, it would be a lot different. Let's not underestimate Mississippi State. They have a great defense. I mean, they got a front seven that can match up with Alabama. Their secondary is very, very good. And the one thing they have a running quarterback in Nick Fitzgerald. He's their leading rusher, their leading passer. And you recall this, a running quarterback gives Nick Saban some problems. I look for Alabama to prevail, but it's going to be one heck of a game. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Alabama 31-17.
Got the Kentucky Wildcats wounded, now number 11. Headed to Knoxville Rocky Top to play Jeremy Pruitt in Tennessee. Tennessee, had a 14-3 squeaker over Charlotte last week. But more importantly, we saw the Wildcats had a lot of hype getting ready for the SEC East Championship game and couldn't get it done against Georgia. Mark, what do you think is going to happen down there in Knoxville?
Well, Kentucky wasn't ready for prime time last week. I think their defense will play a lot better this week than they did last week. Tennessee will not rush the ball for over 300 yards like Georgia did. Kentucky will get it done. And I think Terry Wilson's got some confidence in the passing game. I keep going back to that. 3 weeks ago, he had 3 completions of 9 attempts for 18 yards. The last 2 games, he's thrown for over 200 yards. Let him throw the football when he has to throw the football. Kentucky will bounce back. There's a lot to play for to go to 10-2 for a Kentucky team. They're going to win it 26-17 at Tennessee.
It'd be interesting to see how Kentucky reacts. I think they'll react favorably, but they should not get away from the formula that enabled them to win the football game, and that's run the football, play great defense. Now they're starting to throw the football around, and I don't think that's the ideal thing for Kentucky's future. On the other hand, Tennessee is very well coached. I think they're going to be a good football team in the future, but they're just not talented enough right now. I look for Tennessee to lose this football game, Kentucky to win 21-17.
Well, those that agree with Kentucky winning, go to the app right now. Go crowdslide.com, log into the contest, and pick the Wildcats. And all of you down there wear orange, you can pick the Volunteers. We'll see how that's going to go. But our third game in our Rapid 5, number 24 Auburn is headed to Athens against number 5 Georgia, who the opposite side of the curtain from Kentucky, they won that big game in Lexington. They're running the ball, and Auburn's 6-3. Auburn wasn't expected to be 6-3 at this time of the year. There's a lot of grumbling down there on the plains, but, there's always grumbling on the plains. Things are starting to click for the Bulldogs in Georgia. Mark, talk to us about this one.
If you look at Georgia right now, what do they have to play for? They're already in the SEC championship game. It doesn't matter if they win this game. They had 2 emotional games on the road. They played Florida on the road. It was an emotional game they won. They played Kentucky on the road. It was an emotional game they won. Now they've got a team in Auburn that they beat last year in the SEC championship game. There'll be a letdown for Georgia. It'll be a sloppy football game, but Georgia will still pull it out at home 30-26.
I think that Georgia will remember last year they got beat by Auburn, got beat decisively by Auburn. This is always a very, very difficult game. It's a very emotional game they play each and every year. I think Georgia will not have a big letdown. What's disappointing about Auburn is Gus Malzahn is an offensive genius. For many years, everybody said how great he was. Now, their offense in almost every statistic mark is ranked in the 90, and there's only 128 teams in Major College Football, and they're around 90 to 95. So offensively, they just aren't very good. I think that Auburn wins this football game 34-21.
Well, I see they're playing for different things, but don't forget with Georgia, they got to keep winning because if they beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, you know what? They get in the playoff. If they lose this one, they're still not going to take a 2-loss SEC champion in the playoff. I don't see that happening. So that's going to take us to Friday night. Friday night lights in Boise, Idaho on the Smurf turf, blue turf. It's cold, and I'll tell you what, I sure heard, excuse me, I have heard they know how to party in Boise, Idaho. So Fresno State, 8-1, leading the Mountain West. They're going out there to take on these Broncos. We're going to see what's going to happen. Mark, what do you think about this right now? For the group of five, they're challenging. Fresno State saying, hey, UCF, I keep hearing it, don't forget us. Mark, what do you think?
Jeff Tedford's done a terrific job at Fresno State this year. Obviously, they're 8-1 this year. Their defense has been outstanding this year. But there's one thing they haven't been able to do is beat Boise at Boise. Boise is tough at home. If you look at Brett Rippon, he's done a terrific job throwing the football all season long throughout his career on the blue turf, the Smurf turf, going to Boise. It's going to be a great night. Boise State's going to hang on to win it, but it's going to be a close one, 24-20.
Well, I agree with about Fresno State. They've had an excellent year, and they're 8-1. But by the same token, Boise State has won 4 straight games and playing at home. And you and I have done games there, Mark. Those fans are great. The blue turf, they wear the all-blue uniform. You can't see where in the world they are. They're very hard to beat. However, I think Fresno State really is very special this year. I look for Fresno State to hang on and win the game 34-31 in Boise.
Well, those in the Valley, log into thecrowdsign.com and pick up Fresno State to beat Boise on that Friday night. And what I'm really excited about, though, is Saturday in Orlando. Well, as we all know, Saturday's the 243rd birthday of our beloved United States Marine Corps. And United States Naval Academy, which produces Marines, they're headed to Orlando to play number 12 UCF. Now, we know Navy's had a tough year, had a tough week last week because he's running for 126 yards, which for them running for 126 yards like going in the slow lane. So they're playing 9-0 UCF. Mark, what do you think about this one?
This is a Navy year that's just kind of a head-scratcher. Ken Niumatalolo, their head coach, you usually don't see teams like this out of him, but they just don't have the players they've had in the past. This is just one of those down years for Navy. They can't get it done. UCF is playing for a lot. It's in their backyard. Navy will run the ball and try to keep it close. It'll be closer in this game, but UCF with Mackenzie Milton, the quarterback, and their defense has to pick it up. They're not very good against the pass, but they're decent against the run. UCF will still pull it off and pull away at the end, 38-15.
The thing about Navy, you know they're going to play hard. They're going to play together. They're going to play as a team. They're going to give the maximum effort. That's the one thing about the academy. And it's a good thing they do, or this game would really get out of hand very early. I think UCF is looking to go to a major bowl. Let's remember this, before you underestimate UCF. Last year, basically the same team beat Auburn in a major bowl on January 1. I look for UCF to beat Navy 45-14, and I don't know what has happened with Navy, but for the last 2 years, they have digressed. For whatever reason, I do not know. Athletes came, athletes went at Navy. They always found a way to win. Not so this year. They've lost 6 straight. This will be 7.
Coach Mark, as one of our midshipmen tells us, don't ever count Navy out.
Hey, Coach Mark. We've heard the predictions. We've heard the odds. We know we're on a losing streak. One thing you should know about Navy, we're never out of the fight. Go Navy, beat UCF.
We'll see how this is going to go on 10 November. So that does it for our Week 11 College Football Show contest and our Week 11 Rapid 5 contest. So log into thecrowdsign.com, go to our app, sign up for the free contest, and pick your team because I want to see who's going to pick Navy and win, because I think Navy still has a chance. They're not out. With that said, gentlemen, let's talk about winners from Week 10. So, Coach, got some names in front of you. You talk to us about the College Football Show Week 10 winners.
The number 3, Joseph Horwood. You get the $50 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to you. Number 2 is Jim Forrester. $75 Amazon gift card. But number 1 goes to Richard Lillybridge. You get $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to all 3 of you. You won.
My Rapid 5 contest winners this week. Number 3, Jim Peterson gets a $50 Amazon gift card. Number 2, Adam Skirkovich gets a $75 Amazon gift card. And number 1, Pat Coward, a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to all.
Number 2 sounds like he could be from Pitt, Mark. Oh, by the way, leading the ACC Coastal right now. Gentlemen, talking about Week 10, great performances. Your attaboys. Mark, why don't you lead us off on your attaboys this week?
My attaboy goes to the ACC Running Back of the Week, the ACC Offensive Player of the Week, and you know who it is, Coach? Darren Hall from the University of Pittsburgh, running back, 19 rushes, 229 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, and their great victory over UVA. My number 2 goes to Will Greer, Coach. How about this? Not only the 346 yards and 3 touchdowns he had, but how about this? Coming back in the last drive of the football game, throws a touchdown pass. They could go for the extra point and tie it up, but no, Will Greer keeps the football, runs it in for the 2-point conversion. They win the football game 42-41.
How does the defensive back for Texas feel that they threw the ball over him? But congratulations to Will Greer. Mine goes to Reggie Corbin, Illinois' running back. He rushed for 213 yards and 2 TDs, both coming on runs of more than 70 yards as Illinois defeated Minnesota 55-31 and ran for almost 500 yards. The other one, of course, goes to Ben Hicks. The SMU quarterback threw for 318 yards and 4 TDs as SMU upset Houston. That was big.
Coach, I love it because maybe Lovie Smith will start getting a little bit of love, and those freshmen that started 2 years ago will start improving. We'll see. Now, gentlemen, we got Week 11 coming up. It's Veterans Day. It's the Marine Corps birthday. I mean, favorite time of year. What are you looking forward to? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to a great football game between everybody and every team because we always do that.
What I'm really looking forward to this week is just a competition. You know, you have people 18 to 22 years of age playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people, millions on TV, and to just watch them compete, watch them play, the excitement of winning. They aren't being paid. It isn't, well, I get a salary anyway. Everything's about winning and losing. Right now, some teams are trying to win a championship. Some are trying to get to a bowl game. Some are trying to ruin everybody else's season. So I just think every game's exciting. I care not about the record. Once people are competitive, I love to watch because the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat happens every Saturday to 50% of the teams.
Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to fans being fans and enjoying football for what it is. I'm looking forward to Navy upsetting UCF on the Marine Corps birthday. But I'm also looking forward to Veterans Day. Fortunately, I get to talk to some young people on Friday, and I get to go to Atlanta and celebrate the birthday with the Marines on Saturday. But I want to point out a special Marine that I'm looking forward to. Corporal Timmy Donnelly, on February 6, 2012, in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. He lost both his legs. His arm was injured in an IED incident, and at the time, he'd been in the Marine Corps for about 8 months. Well, I was responsible for Timmy Donnelly. I was his battalion commander, yet we stayed in touch. And where some people could feel sorry for themselves, some people could say, woe is me, Timmy Donnelly said, you know what? Okay, I can't go be an infantry Marine anymore, so I'm going to follow my other passion, and that is music. And from 2012 all the way up till about 2016, he recuperated. The number of surgeries he's had is incredible. But you know what? He got married. He's in a band. And they are releasing a promo video this Friday. And it's at www called Resilient.com. And it's a Resilient band. And you want to see Resilient? See a young Marine who's 18 years old. He loses both his legs. And then the next time you see him, he's singing at the Grand Ole Opry and he's smiling. That's Resilient. So on this 100th anniversary of Veterans Day, please don't ever forget, on Sunday, Veterans Day is the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And it's the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War. And thank a veteran, because I love thanking veterans. So we have veterans here on the crowds line. And Brian Martin is a retired Marine. Chris Joust is a retired sailor. Brian Hedker is a retired sailor. And my friend Lou Holtz is a former Army officer. So with that, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy college football. Let's enjoy Veterans Day. And we're going to see you next week. Thank you.
From the 30, Johnson out of the shotgun. Dropping back, pressure on, throwing over the middle. Has Williams. 10, 5, touchdown!